Let's discover in this video all of the most common car rental fees that you can find in Europe. And most importantly, I will give you a few actionable and practical tips to avoid or minimize these fees. But let's start straight away with probably the biggest fee. So you book your car, an incredible bargain, and you feel so happy. But then at the counter, you're gonna get charged an incredible car insurance fee, and you can't say no. So what's happening here? Well, let me say this is not unfortunately an uncommon scam. So let's talk more about this insurance fee. When you rent a car in Europe, it's mandatory that the car is provided with a third-party liability insurance. And this covers damages or injuries you may have caused to a third party. In most of the cases when you rent a car, you will be given also a CDW or collision damage waiver, also called a loss damage waiver. This is technically not an insurance, but it's going to limit your financial responsibility for damages to the rental vehicle. Fortunately, this collision damage waiver has an excess, which usually goes from 500 to 3,000 euros, which means basically you will be out of pocket in case of any accident up to 3,000 euros. So once you go to pick up the car, they will try to upsell a full insurance, and for that they will charge you between 20 and 30 euros a day, which can be even more the cost of the rent of a car. I'm personally not against a full insurance, but probably I wouldn't do it at the desk. That's the most expensive way to do it. First of all, check your credit card, because quite often in the travel insurance of the credit cards, there is an inclusion of the full insurance for your rented car that is gonna cover your excess. But sometimes this credit card full insurance has another excess on top of it, which typically is between 300 and 500 euros. I found it out myself in my own credit card insurance, and that's defeat a little bit of the purpose. What I've been doing the last few years is just to buy a full insurance from my favorite comparative website, and it cost me only 7 to 8 euros per day, which is absolutely a great bargain considering the peace of mind that gives me during the trip. I'm gonna put a link actually of this comparative website into the video description, and that's where I also book my cars, and I love it because every single car provided is ranked between 5 and 10 stars based on the customer feedbacks. It's basically an Airbnb of car rental companies. So I typically filter between 8 and 10 stars just to get the most trusted company, and I book my car from there. As easy as that. I've never been disappointed, and that's why I usually suggest it. Another charge you may experience in Europe is the fuel charge. Most of the companies rent the car with a policy of full to full, which means basically they're gonna give you a car with a full tank, but then you have to fill it up just before returning the car. And you can easily do that because most of the airports have a petrol station just outside the airport. Some companies may give you the car empty to empty, which means if there is any petrol left into the tank when you return the car, will be lost. So trying to plan your visits to the petrol station accordingly with the kilometers that you're gonna do. And then there is a small number of companies that are gonna give you a car with a policy of full to empty, which besides losing any petrol left in the car when you give it back, you will be also charged for an initial full tank at a price which is usually higher than the market. And this is probably the worst policy that you can find. Typically you can check the fuel policy in the rental condition, so make sure you have a full to full or at least a same to same, and try to avoid the full to empty. You may already know that in Italy there are two prices for the petrol. One is for servita, one is for self-service, which means if you do it yourself, you're gonna save around 10% on the cost of the petrol. Another fee is the excess mileage fee. In most of the cases when you rent a car in Europe, you have unlimited mileage, but this may not happen if you're renting luxury cars, where they give you a bonus of 100-150 kilometers per day. So check it out, because if you go over this limit, you will be charged an arm and a leg. You may also have a limit on the mileage if you are renting cars long term, or even worse, if you are leasing the car for maybe 1, 2 or 3 months. This is definitely something that you want to check before booking your car. Another fee to keep in mind is the late return or early return fee. So always make sure you return your car every time you pre-plan. Remember that you may be charged even an extra day if you return your car with a delay of 1 hour or more. What I personally do, I always put a little bit of a buffer on the return time, because returning the car even 1 hour prior to the planned time is not a problem. What it may be a problem actually, and they may charge for that, if you return the car 1 or 2 days in advance. So don't be surprised if you change your plan to have this early fee. And my suggestion here is always to call back to the rental company if you have to change your plan, because they can deal with that in advance and they may rent that car to other customers, and therefore you won't have any fee. If you are 25 years old or younger, you may have also a young driver fee. This is something that you can check out on the rental condition. And sometimes it must be said that the rental company don't even rent the car to 21 years old or younger. Typically this fee is between 10 and 25 euros a day, and honestly there is not much you can do. So when you check the car, for example, on the comparative website that I was suggesting, not only check the price of a car, but also if they have a young driver fee and how much is it, because it may add up quite a bit actually if you rent the car for 1 or 2 weeks. This fee may apply also to people over 75 years old. Together with this fee, there is also an additional driver fee. So if you're planning to drive in 2 or more of you should expect to pay around 10 euros a day for an additional driver. So the easiest way to avoid this fee obviously is to have a single driver that is going to be in charge for the entire trip. Another fee to keep in mind is the airport surcharge fee. I know it can be quite handy actually to arrive to the airport and have a car straight away park a few meters out of the gate. But unfortunately sometimes there is a fee for that, and this is the airport charge fee. If you want to avoid the airport surcharge fee, make sure to rent your car from an off-site rental company. Typically these off-site companies are only 5 to 7 minutes from the airport, and they offer free shuttles, which they're gonna pick you up and drop you off at the airport. Very easy going, and you can save up to 20 or 30% on the total cost of a rental. I personally use off-site company because saving 20-30%, especially on a long-term contract, can save you quite a bit of money that you can use for your holiday. That you can totally avoid, in my opinion, is the GPS or navigation system fee. There are a couple of reasons for that. The first one, typically the car GPS system is not 100% up to date. For example, 2 years ago I visited Sicily in the south of Italy. I rented a car with a GPS system, and honestly the map was not that updated. So I ended up using my mobile, which takes me to reason number 2. The GPS systems of the car, more often than not, are not synchronized with the traffic. Meanwhile, Google Maps, for example, has the traffic information, which can make a huge difference in the route that you can take to your destination, besides the accidents that you can have on your route. And that's why I personally suggest to use Google Maps or Waze as your GPS system during your holiday. And in this way, you're gonna save also some money on this fee. Based on the country that you're gonna visit, you may have also toll charges. There are countries in Europe that don't charge for that. There are other countries in Europe they charge a reasonable fee, and there are other countries again in Europe that you need a mortgage to pay for these tolls. And the only way to avoid them is to take the secondary road, which in most cases is really the best way to enjoy the country. Two of the most expensive countries for tolls are Italy and France, which they charge on average about 15 cents per kilometer. So for example, if you take an highway to go from Paris to the south of France, expect to pay between 70 and 80 euros. Typically you can pay these tolls using either cash, credit card, or if you stay in a country for a long time, probably it's a good idea to take a transponder. There are different transponders based on the the country you visit, and there are also transponders that cover multiple countries, in case you're thinking about driving all around Europe. If you have a transponder, you will be charged directly to your credit card. There's gonna be an easy solution. But if you don't want to get involved with all of this, just use your credit card and you're gonna be fine. There are also countries that don't have tolls as such, but you need to buy a vignette for the time that you're gonna spend in the country. I'm thinking here about Austria, about Switzerland, about Hungary, and you will have to buy either a sticker or a digital sticker that you connect to your car. These are not as expensive as the tolls, but still a fee to keep in mind when you rent a car in Europe. Another important thing to keep in mind, especially if you rent a car for a long period, is to give it back claimed. Because if a car is too dirty, they're gonna charge you also a cleaning fee, which can be between 50 and 70 euros. What I usually do before giving back the car, I give a quick clean that costs me, 5 to 10 euros. It's taking me only 10-15 minutes, but it avoids me quite an expensive fee. Another fee which is worth mentioning is the one-way fee. This is when you return the car in a different location for where you pick it up. This fee can be actually quite expensive, and in true honesty, sometimes it's just better to give back the car where you pick it up and take the train or even a flight to the next destination. Obviously, you understand why this fee can be quite expensive, because the car rental company will have to pay someone to drive back the car to the original destination. And this fee actually becomes massive if you plan to return the car in a different country. And if this is what you're planning to do, honestly, taking a flight can be so much cheaper. I know there are plenty of possible fees in Europe, but if you are prepared, and hopefully this video has helped you, you're gonna minimize or even avoid most of them. And if you're still with me, I guess you appreciated the effort in making this video, so please put a like because it means a lot to me. And of course, follow the channel because in the next few weeks, I'm gonna post more videos about renting cars and also itineraries of Europe. So stay with me and I'll see you next week. Bye, ciao!